All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another installment of Your Money Matters Financial Empowerment Show. I am your host, Letha Thornton. We will be spending some time this evening giving you more of what you enjoy when it comes to talking about money matters. This is Women's History Month. So, this month's shows will be dedicated to nothing but women as we seek to move the culture forward. Women are such an important part of the culture when it comes to building wealth, gaining wealth, acquiring wealth. So we are dedicating that to women this month. So as my light went out, but today we have a very special guest who is going to be spending some time talking about just that, women and wealth, and um, how we can get better when it comes to our money, despite some of the obstacles that women are challenged with, whether it's societal issues or familial issues. We want to address those things and empower people today, as we usually do. So today I have a guest who is a personal friend of mine, also a mentor, a business partner, a fellow mother. She is so dynamic in what it is that she does, and she, like me, looks to empower people to do better and take control of their finances so that we can help to close the wealth gap and create financial independence for the families that we serve. So I'm going to bring up my coach, my mentor, my friend, Miss Rashida Baker. Are you here?
I am here. I am here. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Miss Thornton. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
I am well. I am well. I am well. I appreciate you having me on. I appreciate the work you do. I really, really do. Awareness, um, awareness and environment helps a person get to where they want to be. So, thank you again.
Absolutely. Oh no,
Mhm.
it's a pleasure. I think you're probably one of our most repeated guests, just because from what I hear when people talk about your appearance on the show, everything is always in simple terms, relatable terms that people can understand. And when you're providing resources to, our listeners and things who may just be starting out or may just be trying to figure out where to begin or how this all works. Simplicity and relatability is really, really, really important. So that's why I asked you to come back over and over again
Mhm.
because of the reviews that we get. So tell the people just a little bit about you if they're brand new to Your Money Matters.
Okay. I am the daughter of one of two children to my mother and father, and I went to school for to be a registered nurse. I was one of the statistics of the late 80s. I had a child early, and I knew that I wanted to be able to take care of him and myself. Was not interested and never even crossed my mind to be a statistic, but I still wanted to have a very fruitful income, a career, and I picked nursing. I went to Rutgers to be an RN because in my mind, I really wanted to be a physician, but in my mind, I couldn't be in school that long, and I had someone to take care of, and also I wanted a career that if you picked me up and put me on any corner of the earth, I would have marketable skills and do well in that society or community. And so I went to school for nursing, and probably in my senior years, that sophomore year, I met my now husband, and he was a truck driver. And I was a per diem nurse when I did graduate, which means I got paid more than the staff, but there was no benefits, no paid time off or anything like that. I just kind of got my benefits through his job, but I made decent money, 6-figure money. And so, life, does what it does. And I was 6 months pregnant with my second daughter, and I fell down the steps and broke my foot. And this was the night Lady Diana died. So I'm really dating myself. And and so I had to stay out of work to for the foot to heal, and then be out of work to have the baby. By the time the foot healed, it was now time to be out on maternity leave. And it was and we had been looking for our first home for about a year. We found something, and we was going to close on it, and we did. And the Friday before closing, he was laid off his job, so we go to buy our house with no jobs. But he's a truck driver and I'm a nurse, so I'm assuming on any given Friday we'll be back working again, but it just didn't work that way. And we had been in that house for 8 months with no job. I think disability for being on maternity did kick in. But I kind of go in that detail because it really is what brought me to where we are today in terms of being in business for ourselves, in terms of being in the financial industry, no longer in healthcare. But all I knew from that experience is that I wanted to have money that came in outside of my skin and bones. That was the best way I could describe it. I wanted to have money coming in no matter what was going. If my mama was sick and I needed to be with her, if I was sick and needed to heal, if I wanted a vacation and just travel the world, if I wanted to be doing anything but working, I still wanted an uninterrupted, significant cash flow. I didn't know the words financial independence. I didn't know passive income. I didn't know all of that, but I knew that. And my idea was when I would see women in the malls, with big rocks on their fingers, and little transformer strollers, the strollers that cost $300-400. You know what I mean, getting out of their Lexus trucks in the middle of the day, and you ride past golf courses and you see people in the middle of the day just playing golf. That just was a similitude of freedom. And if I back up a little bit, the nursing that I did was home care nursing. And I did, so I saw a Medicare population in the community. And in home care, I was a case manager there. I put the nurses in there, I put the social workers in there, the therapists, the home health aides. I did that. And I just kept seeing the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And I saw the difference between having money, and the people who had money could respond to anything. They had health challenges, they were diabetics, they had wounds, but they could get the medicines and the treatments that their insurance didn't pay for. They could stroke a check. This is the have. These are the communities where the houses, 400,000 shack, 400,000. You could walk in and see the sky through the hole in the roof, shack. Those communities. And I was in the inner city too, where those families loved their loved ones just as much. But because of the healthcare, they had to do these old archaic wound care treatments, which they would eventually die from infection. It would just get worse. And but I would see people with money, and they could, buy the $1,000 tube of medicine and heal up. And I would see that they would pay for the nursing home to come to their house. And so they were still cared for in their environment. I would see them trade in the car for the Mercedes truck, the van with the lift, and get them and take them to the shore for the day, and just for all their crumbled bodies and deteriorated health care, they still had a great quality of life because the family could stroke a check. And I just kept wanting that. And I didn't know what was the difference between why would people land there and then other people land in, they live in houses that are infested. They can't get the health care. They always are being denied because of socioeconomics. They in the clinics. I saw, just saw the effects of not having money. And, it's one thing to be old and sick, but it's a whole nother demented ballpark to be old, sick, and broke. And so I just knew I didn't want that. And these life experiences came to me well before I ever met a formal company that we have built a business with now that teaches the principles on how to not end up that way. So when I was introduced to it, I just grabbed a hold of it. I wanted to be in an environment that was going to coach me. And that's what we do with other families. Just coach me how to be wealthy. Coach me how to be independently wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really have anything to do with, material things, the cars, jewelry, clothes, travel, houses. That stuff just comes along. That's just a part of the course, just collateral damage. Just, you're gonna have those things. But the end game to be was financially free, and then to be able to let that be the foundation by which my children continue to build on. And so it goes on to old money and wealth in our family, and our communities need families like that.
Hmm. You just answered like six of my questions at one
Okay,
time.
my bad. I'm sorry.
No, don't do it. No, it's okay. It's okay because I got more. I got more. But that is such a that's so you, right? Where we hear this saying, I may not have come from a wealthy family, but a wealthy family will come from me.
Mhm,
And that being in the industry that you were in, definitely that's an eye opener. But we have
mhm,
those same experiences in everyday life, whether it's
mhm,
the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Sometimes we don't make it to the next paycheck cycle. I know people whose, the insurance matters as to what care they get or how many hospitals they get passed to or if they get turned away.
mhm,
Money just isn't everything, but it certainly is a tool to help you to get some things done. So we don't have a love of money, we have a love of what it is that money can do and how life changing it can be if you
mhm,
if you have the affordability to respond. So
mhm.
that was fantastic. There's a difference though, because a lot of the time, we're on social media and we see, especially these teens of mine, right? They see these people who portray a rich lifestyle, right? The cars, the clothes, the things you name, the cars, the clothes, the houses, the this, the that. Explain the difference between being wealthy versus being rich.
Um, Wealthy is measured in time. Um, it basically states that if you stop working today, if today was the last day you worked, how long would you last?
Mm,
It's not a number. It's, if your life can be handled every 30 days with 5,000, then you're wealthy the moment you own a source that pays you 5 grand a month. It doesn't mean that you're debt free. It doesn't mean that you're driving a 6-figure automobile. It means that all of your living expenses are handled by your passive income, not active income. And we very
mm,
often idolize the active income because they can bounce a ball, or they can throw a ball, or they can sing and dance, or they can act, or they can doctor, or they can lawyer, or they can be a nurse, or they can engineer. That's very active money. If your last day to work was today, how long would you last? So that they may have great cash flow. They may have a higher than usual, higher than average cash flow. But if it's all active, that's not wealthy whatsoever. Now, rich
mm.
is another degree of wealthy. And they say first you become financially first in our community, you got to get financially stable. Okay,
Right.
can you meet your bills with the cash flow you do have? Well, however way it come in, active or passive, that's just getting financially stable.
Sure.
And then there's financial independence. Again, if your life is handled with 3 grand a month, 5 grand a month, 8 grand a month, 10 grand a month, 15 grand a month, if you are if you own a source that pays you that every 30 days, I'm not talking about from the government. I'm not talking about from your boo. I'm talking about something that you own. Um, then you're financially independent. Rich comes well beyond that. Rich, there are levels to financial independence because it's just not enough to be financially. It can be if that's what you want, but it's just not enough for your household to eat. That's great that your household is eating, but it's a lot more impact in the community, and that's really where rich starts to come in. It's like 6, 7, 8 times past financial independence. You have enough money that'll last for 6, 7 generations in your family. That's rich. From an income standpoint, from the asset standpoint, the asset is what is producing the income.
Right.
That's when you start to be in the rich lane. But wealthy is a nice place to be, and it's a higher level of than financial independence. And then rich, there's just so much excess that you are now impacting community. You're having impact well beyond even your family. So there's just levels to it. I think most people at least want to get to the level of financial independence.
Absolutely. And I definitely like how you broke that down. Because like I said, there's so many people that just don't really know the difference, right?
Mhm.
But that money, when you said if you were to not be able to work, how long would your money last?
Mhm.
And I think that that's a good gauge, because learning that things happen, right? You could lose your job, you could become disabled, you could, a lot of different things could be going on, and you need to know, that money is still going to be coming in, whether you are, able to physically work or not. When even for a doctor, when if he can't work or she can't work, the money stops. So
Mhm.
even with the athletes, one of the biggest things they had to get a fix on was the fact that they had all this money and they were blowing it because they didn't have any, financial outlook to, keep the money or grow the money. So these same athletes who were, actively playing and then got injured didn't have anything to show for it. So I think that that's an awesome gauge. And the financial stability, it definitely starts there. When I'm working with people, that's the starting point. How do you rate your finances? And the rating isn't always the best, but how do we reel it in and become financially stable? With this being a women in wealth, Women's History Month, us celebrating, the empowered woman. What are some of the obstacles when it comes to women that stop them from having a clear path to building wealth or finance?
I would say the same obstacles that affect men from the standpoint that very often it's not a goal to become financially independent. I mean, the sound of that, they want that, but not necessarily knowing what that means. And it's only because people don't know how to define that. And then, so if I know what it is, then now I'm open to being coached on how to get there, or how to accomplish it. So there's that general blanket challenge for everybody in middle income America. But on top of that, and by the way, you said the athletes who can't, athlete anymore, throw the ball, what we do at 30,000 a year is the same thing we do at 30,000 a month. So it's
Right.
not specific to the athlete. It's also the nurse. It's also the social worker. It's also the garbage guy. It's also, it's we make money and we spend money. We don't
Sure.
make money and build assets and build a lifestyle from the income the asset produces. That's a Robert Kiyosaki. That's a Grant Cardone thing. Who learned it from the Kiyosakis? But you spend all of your active money buying assets, and then you go get your Mercedes, and you go get your Bugattis and all the things from your passive income. But you spend every dime of your active income buying the assets and let the assets create your lifestyle. So, but you can learn and do that at 30,000 a year, as you can do that at 30,000 a month, as you can do that at 30,000 a day. But if you don't do that at 30,000 a year, a month, a week, a day, then we all wind up in the same boat when we can no longer go get the money,
Sure.
for whatever reason. But some of the specifics to women are just statistically. For the same work and same level of experience, men tend to make more money than women. And I really think the assumption is because men will be taking care of the household. I think that's where that came from.
Right.
But in this country, that doesn't fly too much anymore. But it still is the case that men out earn women for doing the same work with the same level of experience. Although the gap is closing, so there's that. And the other thing is because in society, women are caregivers. Well, women birth the nation, right? And so, just for that alone, she's going to be out of the workforce more. When a mother gets sick, it's typically not the son who leaves the workforce, it's his sisters. Um, when women are out having babies, and all the roles that women societally women fill, the caregiver role. And so we spend a little less time in the workforce, although we live longer, which is a third issue. We're in the workforce less, we make less money while we're there, and we live longer. Women outlive men statistically. So all these things add up to less money accumulation
Mm-hmm.
for us. But just being aware of them, all we need is awareness and a little bit of coaching, a lot of coaching, probably some hand holding by professionals who can guide you through that. But when you're aware of it, then I spoke to a young lady today. She was an underwriter at a bank, and she set an appointment with me, but she was single, no kids. She just sold her house because her father wanted to sell his house, and she didn't want it, the family house, to lose. So she's living in it, and she's kind of paying his mortgage, but she's going to buy it from him. And I was like, you have no, and she had no debt. She said, I don't even have a car note. And I said, you're single, no kids with no debt, and you have you're gainfully employed. And I think she was in her very early 40s, like just clicked into 40. And I said, in the
Mm-hmm.
typical world, you have at least another 25 years. You can really become a multimillionaire in that time.
Mm.
And so we set the appointment. She said, hey, I said, let's just set the appointment. But for the rest of the world, with children, spouses, the money, I spoke to another young lady, and she said, I was on top of my money and on top of my budget, but it was just me and my son. Well, I'm married now and we're going on a fourth child, and it's not so easy to do. Yeah, because there's more things that take money out of your pocket.
Yes, indeed.
And if income doesn't keep up with the responsibilities and inflation,
Mm-hmm.
I always talk about how peaches were $6 a pound in the garden state during the height of COVID. I say that so much. I'm like, in the garden state. But if your paycheck doesn't double every 12 years, inflation typically doubles about every 12 years, 12 to 15 years. So that means what it costs you to get a gallon of gas, or a gallon of milk, or a dozen of eggs, or a jacket, or a pair of boots, and the like, it's going to cost more. It costs more to go to the movies today than it did in 1990. It costs more to buy a
Sure.
used car today than it did in 90. So these are the things that are going to erode income that's a little stagnant. And so these are the things that impact women.
Big time, right?
Mhm,
Those things
mhm,
that you just mentioned, being the nurturers, not just for our children, not just for our spouse, for our aging parents and things of that nature.
mhm,
We often, when we look up, we are, a little bit older and the planning hasn't begun, and it definitely sets us back because we're so focused on those other things. A lot of the times we're not properly planning, and I do see an uptick, when it comes to women getting better with that, because I think, as you said, as these prices are rising, the paychecks are not rising,
mhm,
and there's some struggles. I'm in a budgeting group, on social media, and it's a great way for me to connect with people. And it is primarily women. It's not a women's group, but it's primarily women who are really trying to figure out that part. We have this many children, we have this in debt, we have this going on. So I could definitely see, women figuring it out and trying to grab bull by the horns and take better control of their finances. Which brings me to my next question. Talk about, because these are things that you and I talk about, but also things that I've seen in the news, and I don't know if a lot of women are paying a great deal of attention. But talk about the great wealth transfer that's due to come over the next several years.
I was reading this article on my phone. So the number had probably for the last 7, 10 years, maybe a little bit more. They talked about this wall of wealth, the great wealth transfer. So just a little backdrop with that. The baby boomers were the largest segment of the population in this country. Lord, I'm gonna get the years wrong. Um, I think is it 45 to 65? I think it's like 1945 to 1965, something like that. Those are the baby boomers.
People that
Um,
are in their late 60s, 70s, and 80s.
yes, baby boomers. So as Letha just mentioned, those people are dying off. You know, people says, I never had this much death. We have young death, but as we get older, our aunties, our grandparents, and so forth are passing away because that's just life expectancy. So they were the largest segment. When they were kids, that's where Gerber and all the baby food companies had explosive growth. And when they were teenagers, that's when the fast food restaurants, the McDonald's and all had explosive growth because their parents, the women were entering the workforce, their parents. And so the kids, there's fast food, fast, getting something to eat. And in the 80s, the real estate had but they were in their early 20s getting married. And so real estate had explosive growth because any industry that followed, you ever see a snake eat and it's a big lump and you can see the lump go through his body. So the baby
Mhm.
boomers are the lump. They were the lump. And so whatever stage of life they were in, if you had a company or business that fed that stage of life, you were rich because that was the largest segment of our population. So as you just mentioned, they're at end of life stage. I hate to sound morbid, but the youngest of them are in their late 60s. Life expectancy is late 70s, and some of them in our 80s. So they're passing away. So what do you say? 75% of America's money is in the hands of people 55 and older. 75% of America's money is in the hands of people 55 and older. Well, if the largest segment of them are passing away, that's called inheritance. You inherit in Big Mama's house. You probably don't want to live there. You're going to sell it and you're going to get the money and go. They have retirement. They had some sort of assets or savings or insurance, and that money is coming to I think we Gen Y. What are we? We the next
I'm,
ones. We
a-
the
I'm,
millennials. We the
I'm Jeff.
millennials parents. The millennials parents. So the millennial parents are in their early 60s all the way to the early 40s. That's the millennial parents. The millennials, early 40s to mid 20s, because Gen Z kind of stole some of their years. So each generation is about 20 years old. They birthed the next generation. All right. They actually have a generation alpha. That's the Gen Z's kids. Them the ones in preschool right now, or younger. But in any event, so if 75% of America's money is in the hands of people 55 and older, and the biggest bulk of them are passing away, that money is being inherited to the generation below it. But millennials now
Sure.
make up the largest segment of the population. They are now the lump in the snake. Millennials outnumber Gen Y, the millennials parents. The millennials outnumber us. And so that's why you see
Mhm.
everything being digital, everything is on the app, everything, because they're going to gear marketing to them. They're the biggest population in the workforce or entering the workforce. So everything's going to be geared to them. But the transfer of wealth is simply because 75% of America's money is in the hands of people 55 and older. And as they pass away, whatever they have transfers to the next generation. So You might want to be in an industry that captures that money. You might, when you're in your budgeting classes, to me, I don't like budgeting. And I need to be aware my money goes, but I just don't like to be confined by the budget. The only way to overcome that is to absolutely make more money than you spend and save right off the top. Maybe give and save right off the top, and then you just live off of what's left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but making more money
Hard to
is the
budget if you don't have the money to, if you don't have
right.
it.
I ain't gonna rearrange the ships on the Titanic, but that thing is still going down. I mean, it's just that's just, and people don't always want to hear that. But again, that's where inflation stepped in. You spending on the same stuff, it just costs more, but you don't have more money coming in. You didn't get a raise
Right.
like that.
No.
So that's why it seems tighter. Back in the day, daddy could work and he handled all the bills. Then
Right.
daddy had to get a part-time job, full-time and a part-time job. This is as time goes on. Then mommy had to go get a job. Now everybody got to get a job. The kids, the mama, the dad, and everybody got two jobs. And they buying the same stuff. There's nobody living in the castle on the hills. It ain't like they working all these jobs and now they living in a house twice as big in a twice as better neighborhood. They buying the same house Big Mama had, but she bought it for
It's
30,000.
higher
You
price.
buying it for 190.
Right.
And
And
so, but nobody's paycheck is growing like the cost of stuff. And so it's kind of like, we all have to do something other than, we have to do something that allows us to have an expansive income, even if it's just to supplement what we do. Well, that's my little shameless plug on entrepreneurship. And it's even more shameless because I tell you, call Letha, call me, because we're looking to develop some entrepreneurs. But it's just what it is. It don't matter what you do. You got to do something other than what you're doing to bring in more income, unless you have a stretchable income.
absolutely.
That's the wall of wealth. That's the wall of wealth. That it's just they're dying and the money is going to come into the heirs.
And women are going to be a really, really huge part of that. Sometimes
Mhm.
they're the widower, sometimes they're the daughter, the granddaughter, or whatever the case may be. And what you were saying about inflation is true. I was watching a video and it was saying to be what they consider middle class, which is why we kind of see the middle class diminishing, which is kind of sad because if you thought you were middle class, the prices of everything has gone up so much that now what's considered middle class is $174,000 a year, right? So if you were making a six-figure income, now with everything going up, we're seeing that those people are having the same challenges, that the class that was what considered poor are having. So the middle class is sort of diminishing. That used to be the upper middle class, and now they're saying that this is the middle class. So we just have to have, a like you said, a plan of attack, to keep up with inflation. And I think that people are downsizing their life instead of finding a way to do something to increase their income. So thank you for taking the time to explain that. For
Mhm.
our women, what are some of the things that they can do to get on track to be able to receive the great wealth transfer proceeds, and doing them, using that wealth or what's being passed to them in a way that the wealth continues to stay in the family?
100% they need guidance. We're a
Mm,
habit of our we are a result of our habits, and our habits come from, we do what our parents do. We do what we know. And what we know is when money comes in our hand, we spend it. And when it's a large sum of money or a lump sum of money, we have good intentions, but we will pick at that thing until it's gone.
sure.
Ask anybody that hits a lot. Look at all and you know these stories. You don't necessarily have to know the names or the state or how much the lottery was. How many times have we heard people that have hit it for millions and they're broke 5 years later? That's the
Right.
conditioning of middle income America. That's a conditioning. We're conditioned to consume because the power that be that has the money, they own the businesses. So of course, all marketing is for you to buy this and buy that. All marketing is They know people, everybody want to feel special. Everybody want to, make you feel like the man or the woman. And their marketing is buy this and you're gonna be the man or you're gonna be the woman. So they know this innately about human beings. So marketing is directed at our psyches to buy this label, to buy this name brand, to wear these pair of shoes, to wear this. And so what does that do? It keeps the wealthy class wealthy. That's what it's designed to do. You ain't gonna see too many
Sure.
advertisements on your channels about how to invest, how to grow money. How many promotions versus go buy something. Come on, right? So because that's not their intention, really they don't care if you become wealthy. And in some instances, they would block you becoming wealthy historically. And so, they want to stay wealthy. So everything is geared at, stuff that looks upside down to look right side up. And you're going to want to go get these degrees, although there's nothing that drives negative net worth more than these college educations. And I'm not knocking education. I just knock the system, the structure they have it in. We're going to put you in this multi six figures of debt. And then the trick is to tell you to go back and go get another one so you can get some more debt. So I know you're going to come and work in my empire. You're going to keep me wealthy and my family wealthy.
Mhm.
And it's nothing wrong with the education, but it's set up. If you even, and this is really, I'm going on a little tangent, but if you Google what was the start of a public education, mandatory, like, so you would go to jail if you don't send your kids to school. That was started by the Rockefellers and their rich friends. And in their talk, they say, and it wasn't designed for you to be no engineer and doctor and lawyer. I mean, you can, but that's not what it was. We needed to keep a labor class going. And so we needed to make sure not only the parents, but we got to get the kids and the kids to work in our empires so that we can maintain wealthy and that you can stay in middle income America, which you just started describing is deteriorating a little bit. And
Yeah.
so, so what can people do to keep the generational wealth building? In general, our grandparents weren't wealthy, but they've been on earth long enough to accumulate something.
Mhm.
And so when they pass away, that comes to us. How can we use that as part of the platform, as part of the process of actually building wealth? You really, because if you don't know, you're not going to do it. So
Right.
you have to be in environments, you have to be with people who this is what they do. And that can be podcasts. Shout out to everybody that's listening to this and that listens to Letha every week because you're attracted to the topic. That's a
Sure.
very good thing. But whether you're listening to podcasts or you pick up a book or you read an article or somebody puts their phone, a group, and they get together and talk about it, you will be exposed to more and more and more. And it's a rabbit hole that you can very happily go down.
Sure.
And just your awareness will make you start to make different choices. Just your awareness. And obviously, if you linked up with a coach who develops wealth that's licensed to do that, this is what they do, this is what their company does. Again, you want, even if most of it go over your head, if you pick up 10%, you'll change the trajectory of your finances and the trajectory of your family's finances if you just peck at it. You know what I mean? If you goof it up trying to get it done, you're going to be well off
Right.
more than the people who are totally oblivious and just walking decade through decade through money.
Absolutely. And I think it's key, um, before any kind of inheritance or things come, that you get started with the planning, sitting with a coach,
Mhm.
learning where you want to be, where you're currently at, how we want to get there, how you're going to attack, certain elements of your debt, or whatever it is as far as building a strong financial house. The time to get started really is now. We definitely understand the great wealth transfer, but at the same time, we got to make sure that our own retirement or our own wealth building machine is intact. Right now it could be broken. People don't feel like they can get started, or I really don't have any money to get started. What do you say to people, who say, I really don't even have any money to get started? I want to learn how to build and create wealth, but I don't even know if I can get started. I don't know when I'll be able to, because I am in the paycheck to paycheck cycle, or I'm short, before my next paycheck comes. How do you coach that?
Um, I want to say it was Robert. It's said, I don't attribute it to somebody because I might be wrong, but it's that um, do it anyway, because what your brain will do subconsciously is either figure out how to get your expenses down or your income up.
Mm,
Your brain will subconsciously do that, and it's kind of a lie. You don't recognize it, but if someone followed you for 30 days, every time you spent money, I promise you, you're spending at least three, four, five, 600, six, well, three, four, $500, mindlessly, mindlessly. And if you said, you know what, I'm gonna put it to the test. I'm gonna put $100 every month in. I'm gonna put it in a mutual fund. I'm gonna put it somewhere where I really can't get at it one, two, three easy. And then for most people, their house will not collapse. They're going to eat every day. They're going to pay their mortgage or rent. They're going to pay their car note, insurances, whatever they're going to pay it, because we all have this miscellaneous. That's the pizza and wings. That's the I'm going to a concert. I'm on vacation. You don't do that every month, but through the year, if you spent 4,000 in it, that's about $300 every month. That
sure.
somewhere you came up with the money to do that. So it's, you're thinking about what you consciously have, but we spend very unconsciously. We go to Target for two things and come out with three bags.
Hmm.
We go into the supermarket with a shop list of, I don't know, 30 things, but we come out with 62. So those are the things that happen. And if you don't like to cut your lifestyle down, then the option is get your income up. One or the other,
Right.
one or the other. I'm not one that want to have to cut my lifestyle. That irritates me.
Sure.
I don't, that irritates me. So I focus on getting my income up, but I also focus on prioritizing what to do with the money first,
Right.
which for me is giving and saving, giving and investing, and then figuring out how to, whatever we're going to get from the supermarket is whatever I'm not going into savings, and this is what it is. And so I would do things like that, but I'm way much more interested in getting my income up where I don't have to make those decisions. Um, so, but I mean, that's an option. It's a choice. But
Absolutely. And I say that to people too, that cup of coffee, or, the things that you probably could cut back on by buying, the large can of coffee, just different things. That stuff really, really adds up.
it does.
Something that small can, at least get you started. If you bought a cup of coffee every day, 30 days in a month, $2 to $3, there's your money to get started. But one thing is for sure, two things is for certain: if you don't get started, you're never going to be able to stop working or reach any of the other retirement goals and things that you would like to have for yourself. And we know a lot of senior citizens that are still working, just because of the fact that the planning wasn't being taught, or they didn't know where to begin. So you either pay now or you pay later. But
Hmm.
your those bones and the things that used to work that pretty good, it starts to become a challenge when you're older. So that's definitely huge. So how much would you say? Well, I was reading another article, and it was it was basically saying that women are fearful of getting their finances together, or the things that it might take. Women are fearful of investing, losing money, things of that nature. How do you address fear as a financial professional when it comes to helping people to plan? We're fearful, or we think we got to have this cash on hand. I hear people say things like, "Oh, I don't want to lose money in the stock market. I'm fearful. I don't know how it works." How do you address that?
Um, Primarily education. The stock market is supposed to go up and down. Investing in mutual funds and stocks is really just buying ownership in companies.
Hmm.
The companies you buy stuff from every day. You buying on you wear Apple. I mean, you utilize Apple technology. Why not own some Apple? You wear Nike. Why not own some Nike? Or the plethora of things in our household that we don't even know where it comes from. But you have things with rubber. All the rubber companies. You know, rubber companies are one of the highest stocks that have been for hundreds of years because rubber is used in everything. Rubber. But the point of it is that all you're doing is buying ownership in those companies. And just like if you had a business, you're not going to sell the same amount of burgers every day. Some days are better than others. And that's all a stock market is that some days are better than others. When the market is down, it means it didn't do too good today as it did yesterday, or it didn't do as well today as it did this date in 2023. But they still made money today. They just didn't make as much. And so there's a negative to the day as it relates to measuring that. But that's how everything goes. It goes up and down as it goes up. As long as you shop, please know that that means companies will be in business. As long as you paying your mortgage, as long as you paying your car note, buying gas, as long as you getting your hair cut, as long as you buying food, putting clothes on your back, kids back, as long as you are buying something, companies are making money. So when people say, because the market crash, when are you going to stop buying something? And then whenever is your neighbor going to stop buying something? As long as we keep exchanging money for goods, guess what? Companies will be in business.
Absolutely.
Now, there'll be some companies that are more in business than others, depending on how the society is moving.
Hmm.
But professional money managers follow that stuff. So they move your money to those particular companies. So it's really just education. And then I'll
Hmm.
say, well, what? And then you just meet people where they are. They say the black dollars are the biggest dollars entering the market current. But because they don't have a long standing history of doing it, they're very conservative in their choices and they're very conservative how much money they're going to put in there. So let me give you a little $50, see what you do with that, And, but what it does is start to establish success in the market. And so it becomes less risque, it becomes less foreign, less fearful, and a lot more
Hmm.
comfortable when they start to win, when they start to see money grow, when they start to see that. And then again, then that is what's passed on to the next generation, not just the money, but the mentality and
Right.
so forth and so on. But really just meeting people where they are and educating them. Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that I've enjoyed so much when you have been on the show, addressing how the market really works,
Mhm.
and the role of mutual funds, kind of spreading out risk. Because I see people all the time. It's like I'm looking for, individual stocks to invest in, and don't quite have the knowledge of how all of it works. So I really do love how you explain that to people so that they understand, that this isn't something to be fearful of. And that was my biggest thing when I first started investing. I was young, but I had that fear. Consequently, I was undersaving. When you're younger, you have time on your side. So, when I looked up and it had been 12 years later, I really didn't have the money that I needed to have. So, a financial education or somebody actually explaining it to me and meeting me where I was and saying, hey, it's probably not the best to be a conservative investor because you have time on your side or things of that nature. So I definitely was one of those people that had that fear because I heard people losing their money or, things like that. So that definitely the coaching, we can't say it enough. The coaching, get a coach, get a coach, get a coach, because they will take you and handhold you to explain those things. So I heard you talking about entrepreneurship. How much does entrepreneurship play a part in women growing wealth. Now we are seeing a rise in entrepreneurship in with women. More so than ever, women, especially during COVID, women are starting businesses. They are, out really outpacing men when it comes to entrepreneurship. How important do you think entrepreneurship is when it comes to women creating wealth?
Um, I think for a lot of women, it gives them the flexibility around the other roles that may be the first lure, the first attraction, not having a thumb on their neck and being able to make their own choices and decisions and take the risks that go with that. But it's so much more reward tied to it. Um, and in entrepreneur in general, entrepreneurs outpace corporate America in terms of net worth, in terms of asset accumulation, and so forth, men and women. Um, and in entrepreneurship, you get the opportunity. I don't know what your business plan says, but you get the opportunity to make income through the efforts of others. At a job, your income is 100% you clocking in. In entrepreneurship, you get to hire people, you or partner with other business owners, but you get the opportunity to get help contributing to your income. With a job, it's just you. The entrepreneurship, if you have a team, then you have the opportunity that 10 people contribute to your income. You have the opportunity that 100 people contribute to your income. More a bigger team, more gets done, more things get produced. Obviously, more things are sold, so more money is made. Um, and like I said, meant earlier, corporate America income is what it is. There's no flexibility in it. You make this amount of money in this range as a physician, as a lawyer, as a trash truck driver, as whatever your job is, you make within this range of that income. It's very difficult for a physician to go from 175,000 a year to 450,000 a year. It's very
True.
difficult if he made 450, how to go to 900. You can't duplicate you, and you can't duplicate the 10, 12 hours you're already working. You don't can't work 24 hours a day every day. And so in entrepreneurship, you have the opportunity to make even 1% through the efforts of hundreds of other people, which will always be a lot more money than you making 100% of your own. So entrepreneurship, because of its inherent nature. And I'm not necessarily just talking about self-employed, where you're doing all the active income. The difference between being a barber and a barbershop owner that has 20 barbers, or the difference between having a barbershop and having 20 barbershops. You know, that means you're making money through the efforts of others. And so your income tends to be higher. And make no mistake about it, making income is the first step in building wealth. You have to bring in money to turn that into assets. And so if you have the opportunity to have an unlimited shot at income, then you're good. Then you're
Absolutely.
good.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And, businesses has figured out a way to franchise themselves, to have more outlets, to have more staff to work for them. And I think
Mm.
the problem is we look at ourselves as being a part of that picture, but we don't necessarily build it for ourselves. So the
Mhm.
entrepreneurship thing, especially when you need the flexibility, the freedom of time, the freedom of money, becomes attractive to anybody, but particularly women. Because if you have something where you're creating, distribution of products or services, you're going to start to create passive income and things that you don't have to be physically involved to make money from. So, entrepreneurship and business owners, they figure out that if I could build it for this corporation, I really can take the time and build it for myself. So that's what we see a rise in a lot more, because people want to buy their time back. People
Mhm.
want to be with their family, or just doing whatever it is that they want to do. So,
Mhm.
what would you suggest? We talked about just getting started, meeting people where they are. If people wanted to look up more information, as far as the things that we talked about today, where would you suggest that they start? Besides, of course, getting a coach and seeking guidance. What kind of um I know we said podcast, but are there any books or anything that you would suggest for people who are wanting to, familiarize themselves a little bit more with some of the things we were talking about today?
If I turn my laptop around, I got two bookcases here. One book's read, the other one book's not read.
Hmm.
I love to read, but I want to read things that are of interest. I don't, if I'm not interested, I'll read the same paragraph 80 times and still don't know
Right.
what I just read. But I read to see how I can be better. And that's called improvement and self-development.
Hmm.
And you'll find even in books about wealth, uh, you kind of bleed into other areas of your life. But you can go into, so, I'm very old school. You can go to Barnes and Noble and just go to the business section and just pick a topic that the name of the book sounds interesting. A rabbit hole is all I got to do is read one book. And if I like it, you shop on Amazon, you pick this book. People that pick this book, they read these other books too. So
Right.
pick it and read it. If you're not a book reader, listen to things on audio, get on podcasts, join groups on social media. The
Hmm.
information is there and it will always 1000% lead you to another space. Now you want specific coaching, you want someone who's licensed, you want someone who's doing it for themselves, you want someone who is backed by other people who are doing it. And so you want to call 609, no, 856-389-5067. That's our office number. But we're not the only ones. You want to be with us, but we're not the only ones. I need our families and our communities to be successful.
Right.
By all means, we can usher that to you. By all means, that's what we do. But if it's not through us and you getting it done, that's a win for me. Because
Hmm.
if your families are, our families, our children play basketball together. Our children wind up growing up and wanting to marry one another. Our children, what I mean, they're around each other. So if your family is doing well, and we talking about the financial piece, but I mean, in any area, if your
Hmm.
family is doing well and successful and healthy, then you create a better environment for my family. You create a better environment for your places of worship. You create a better environment. We all live in this society and this community together. We need strong, successful families that other families can lean from, lean to, learn from, be supported with and by, encouraged by, exampled by. And so these things happening aren't an anomaly, but they're not an anomaly. They can start to be a norm, and it starts to change the environment or
Hmm.
enhance it, depending on the environment. And we need that in our community. So your family being successful is really paramount in our overall game plan, period.
Absolutely.
But
Self
it's not
improvement.
hard. Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely, self-improvement, because a lot of the times, you need to get in that money mindset, or the desire to want to do better, and a big part of it is the self-help or working on yourself, to start to reel those things in. So, I'm glad that you gave us some things that we can look to. And you definitely told us how they can seek a coach. You know what I'm saying? Even the coach will give you some mindset things to read. You know, Poverty is definitely a mindset.
Hmm.
And a lot of the times when you're stuck in it, or you are keeping up with the Joneses, or whatever the case may be, it definitely is a mindset shift. So even the financial coach might give you some things, to do to kind of work on your mindset, build your confidence and things of that nature. Just tell the audience one more time, give your office number, and even how they can find you on social media.
Um, on social media, oh Lord, Rashida Harvey. It's my maiden name. That's my father's name. But I'm Rashida Bacher and our office is in South Jersey. But we do a lot of things virtually since the pandemic. But
Hmm.
856-389-5067. We're not far from the Cherry Hill Mall. 856 389-5067. I have an appointment with a young lady who listened to this some other time. Um, I think Friday or Sunday. She listened to this and she called me. She says, and she didn't call me. Well, she called me, but she said, my girlfriend said to tell you I saw you on TV. I ain't never been on TV, but okay. And she called me, but she had a lot of questions and we answered. She said, "Can I please meet you?" And so forth and so on. But you could pick up the phone. I will get the message or I will answer it. And how do you, outside of meeting with a coach, because this is what happened with me way back then when I had the broken foot. I really was listening to CNN and PBS, and whenever they had a money show I listened. It's something called the law of attraction.
Hmm.
And when you have something that's burning your gut, you have a burning belly, white belly desire to get something done. It's like when you buy a car, you think nobody got this color or nobody got this make and model. As soon as you buy the car, you see it everywhere. That's something called the reticular activating system. I learned that's in your brain. Those cars always were there, but they were grayed out. You didn't pay any attention because it wasn't relevant. But when you make something from the gray to come to the forefront and it's in living color, like you just bought this car, now you notice it everywhere. When I was pregnant, I watched all the pregnant birthing shows and everything. I don't think I ever seen an advertisement for the show since the last time I gave birth. It's probably there, but I'm not pregnant, so I'm not paying it any attention. But there
Right.
is something indeed called the law of attraction. And if you are intrigued with wealth, and I'm not talking about being flossy rich, then that may be what brings you into the arena too. You will look at every article, you stop at every commercial, you look at everything that has something to do with it. That's just because that's your conscious subconscious brain doing that. And so again, it just may be you turn on your computer and you see an article about it, and then you click on it, and with all the algorithms, they're going to send you more stuff like that. You go on YouTube, you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, and you keep clicking on things that have to do with money and have to do with
Right.
the algorithms. The law of attraction algorithms will follow you.
Right.
And that's, like I said, that's a rabbit hole you can, happily go down, because that's what you want.
Right.
And then you'll start to hear success has a language. Financial success and wealth have language, have principles. I don't care who the author is, you'll hear them repeatedly over and over and over again.
Right.
Being healthy has a language, and you'll hear them over again. Move your body, eat less calories, eat more fruit and vegetables. It has a language. It don't matter who's talking, they'll all say certain things over and over again, and you'll be able to say, well, that's probably fact. Everybody say that's probably fact. Let me just try and do that. They all say, get
Yeah.
started. Get started. You got $50, start saving $50. I don't care if you have to put it under your mattress. Just formulate a success habit or
Right.
stop an unsuccessful habit. I promise you, you will attract the right people, information, support system, coaching, the whole nine, if that's really what you want.
Wow. Speaking of a dynamic woman, you have definitely blessed us tonight with the how tos. Answering some of those questions that people probably have been sitting and thinking about, but don't know where to begin, or don't know that other people feel the same exact way that they feel. You've been where they've been. You started where you started, at a point where you knew you wanted to do something, but you weren't quite sure how you were going to go about it. You anybody can pick this ball up and run with it. And I think that this was such a great way to kick off Women's History Month, because there are a lot of tips and tools and things, and as we seek to empower everyone, excuse me, we definitely have a heart and passion for the women, the mothers, the children, the grandchildren of,
Mhm.
people who are juggling a lot, but need to pick up the ball and run with it. So I can't thank you enough for you being a guest as usual. You are another person who never really tells me no, when I ask for you to hop on and just share your wisdom. So I'm pretty sure that you're going to get other people, who watch this, that are going to be giving you a call, just because of the way that you're breaking things down and explaining it. So thank you for being on again, my dear.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. I appreciate you having me on. And it really is a big part of why I do what I do, because it's not hard to become financially independent. It's probably hard to overcome these psychological things that we do,
Absolutely.
but the mechanics of becoming financially independent and wealthy is that's not hard. It's just overcoming things that we hold as truths that are not necessarily truth. And but again, when the families in our community, when we have stronger communities, and that's really a big part of our mission in what we do. So you have a great
Absolutely.
night.
You too, my dear. And that concludes this episode of Your Money Matters Financial Empowerment Show. We will be with you again in 2 weeks, where we will wrap up Women's History Month, and we will be doing an entrepreneur spotlight geared just toward women owned businesses, so that you can latch on and see some of the success as it pertains to these women entrepreneurs who are really dominating and taking over, the entrepreneurial mindset and getting some things done. So we bid you all a good night, and we'll see you soon.